With election day around the corner and conversations heating up, what are everyday people really thinking? Today, we're not just capturing opinions, we're searching for common ground. Despite our differences, there are shared hopes that unite us. So we're hitting the streets to ask, what's on your mind and where can we come together?
So what are your thoughts on this upcoming election?
I think that it's scary that it's this close in the polls, and I think that as many people as possible need to register to vote and actually go vote.
So who do you want to win, and who do you think is going to win?
Well, I definitely wanted Kamala to win, and I think she will. If you had asked me when the ticket changed back in early August, I was a little nervous about it, but I think that everyone came together really well, and they've been very organized about the campaign, and I think because of that, I think that there's a really good shot she'll win, and I'm happy about that.
Do you prefer VP Harris over Biden? Do you feel like that change was necessary, or do you feel like strategically we should have kept Biden?
No, I think it was absolutely necessary. I think it was the only way that this was going to work out after that first debate.
So how do you feel about how it happened? Because a lot of people wanted like an actual primary, wanted Joe Biden to do that one term and pass the baton and be able to like have the debates, kind of like how the GOP did theirs. Like, how do you feel about how that transpired? And do you feel like that's going to play a role in this November 5th?
I think it's an argument point for a lot of people, and I do understand like the perspective on that whole situation about there not being a primary. But the thing of it is that there frankly wasn't enough time, and I think that the way it was done, although probably not preferred by most anyone in an ideal circumstance, the rules were followed. The way it was done was legal and completely fine. So I think that the people out there arguing that it's corrupt because there wasn't a primary, it's just inaccurate. And I think that's a lot of misinformation being spread.
Mm-hmm. Last question. What is it about VP Harris that you feel like is a better option compared to Trump from a policy standpoint?
How much time do you have?
We can stay here all day.
No, I would say, first of all, she has political, like actual policy related plans, like concrete ones, and she's got the expertise to execute them, and she's got, frankly, what we need to remain a safe and sovereign country, which is the ability to keep things under control. No one should be expecting one president to come in and just instantly change the world. I don't think that's how it works. I think there's an unrealistic expectation about that, but I think that she's organized, and she shows it through this campaign. Like, I think she can actually execute for that very reason. So
do you feel like, I know I said one, okay, so like the main issue that under VP Harris is the credibility portion, because she did work with Biden, and Biden even said like she was in a lot of these rooms, she had a lot of influence and so forth. So a lot of people are questioning like, okay, some of the things you're trying to set forth is like, why wasn't that a conversation, at least a conversation, not necessarily implemented, but why wasn't that at least a conversation prior to this upcoming election?
I think that it's something that everyone, all the candidates affected are walking a really tightrope about, because this is the question, right? And I think that the idea that like circumstances change and perceptions change, it's true, but I think that it's kind of interesting because a lot of people are asking that question, and they stay walking a tightrope about it. That's for sure.
What are your current thoughts on this upcoming election?
I think that it's very important that we get involved and we vote, and that the rhetoric that's happening right now is causing even more division in between all of us right now.
Is there a specific policy priority or a specific agenda that's on your priority, your personal?
Well, I haven't really looked into anyone's policies, to be honest. Mm-hmm. But being a social worker and a veteran myself, I think this homelessness and the fight for veterans is top priority, especially here in DC. There's no reason all these vacant buildings that we have around here, that we have all this homelessness that we have. Okay. So that's definitely one. And the special education for our students here in DC, those two are very big for me.
So something that I've personally been looking into within like Chicago, for example, or New York, a lot of people have been complaining with like a migrant influx in regards to them taking, I would say, necessities from the American people, housing, etc. Do you see that as a problem in DC, or do you feel like that's an issue within this upcoming election, or do you feel like that's more so like talking points?
I'm not sure if it's a problem in DC, but we know that migrants are helpful and useful,
Yeah.
period. But I'm going to say right now, without actually looking into the data, that is rhetoric. And we know by whom is rhetoric for. So, yeah.
Do you feel like that, obviously we're both black, historically we have been voting within the Democratic Party for the last like 50 years or so. Do you feel like right now, as the black community, do you think it's I wouldn't say easier, do you think it's better for us to maneuver as independents and see which side can provide us with the best policies, or do you feel like, okay, the Democratic Party, that is where our comfortableness lies?
In that question, I'm hearing more like an independent mind as opposed to the party independent. Because personally, I don't see anything wrong with voting third party. Because how else are we going to change whether it's we're not going to change if we keep going Democrat or Republican, because why do the other parties exist? So I think an independent mind, there's nothing wrong with that. But so you said, who has the better agenda?
Like within the black community, there's a stigma that we're monolithic. Like, okay, vast majority of Democrats, you're black, you need to vote for the Democrat, whoever's on the ballot. And within recently, Barack Obama has came out and he spoke with black men, pretty much expressing like black men aren't showing up for VP Harris in numbers that they should be. So he got a lot of backlash with that, because it's almost like categorizing black men, you have to do A, B, and C. So my question is more so, do you feel like as within the black community, should we maneuver more as an independent mindset, like how you stated before, or do you feel like there's a level of policies that the Democratic Party can offer us that the Republicans can't?
In this cycle, we're going to say the Democrats have a more policy that's for us, because Republicans, obviously, they don't have one, right? Because Trump finally said it. He has a, what did he say? He said, what word did he use? But he didn't have a plan. They don't have a plan for us. So in this cycle, we need to go ahead and just run with the Democrats, because they actually have policies for us.
One last question. What would you say to...
Concept. That's what he said.
Concept. Okay, yeah, I know what you're referencing. For those who don't know, for his healthcare plan, they were asking him about ACA, Affordable Care Act, and repealing Obamacare and what he would replace it with. And at the time, Donald Trump did say he had concepts of a plan, but he doesn't have a specific healthcare plan for your argument. But I did want to ask, last question, because some people can argue VP Harris, she lacks policy plans. It's very vague. It's very pretty much similar to the Biden administration, where a lot of people aren't happy with. What would you say to that when it comes to, like, okay, you're saying Trump doesn't have a plan. What about VP Harris?
I think all politicians are vague. That's really my answer. Like, they're all vague. But at least she has numbers, money values to her answers. And honestly, what really do we expect for her to provide us right now? She is the vice president.
Okay.
So, and she was pushed into this, right? So it's like, when do we expect somebody to step from being a supporter to the leader, and then now all of a sudden we want them to just tell us what's on their mind when they've been the supporter this whole time?
That's a fair point. Last moment, because I hear you're saying, and I like what you're where you're coming from, but also I have to look at the other side as well, because it's like, what if the same grace that we're giving VP Harris, okay, her plans are vague. Someone could say the same thing. Okay, why can't Trump's plans be vague? Ultimately, what's your ultimate thoughts? Who do you think is going to take it this upcoming election?
I don't know who's gonna take it, but I'm hoping that Harris takes it. Okay. But, you know, as been stated before, this is definitely gonna come down to the white women. What are they gonna do? But hopefully them sparking up this whole movement that they have joined us with, and then the whole white dudes for Harris. Hopefully this actually happens. And once again, Trump put his foot in his mouth by, telling Detroit that the country's going to end up like them, and then all these other shenanigans that he said. So hopefully people are starting to put some common sense in front of rhetoric.
So what are your thoughts on this upcoming election?
I think it's going to be a little chaotic. Like, I'm a little worried about just like the climate. I feel like over the years we've gotten away from facts and actually like stances and more just wild sound bites.
Feelings?
Yeah, or like who can say the most outlandish thing, and that's gonna like catch wind on social media. But like with all that said, it's like more important than ever also, but it's over sensationalized, I feel like, by social media.
Do you feel like this upcoming election is going to be really, really close, or do you feel like it's going to be, like, how do you feel like it's going to play out? Do you feel like VP Harris is going to take it, or Trump?
I would hope Harris is going to take it. Although, in 2016, I thought Hillary was going to walk away, and I went into a workout class and came out, and then all the states were going the other way. So I was, you never know, shocked.
Yeah. Okay, so what about Harris makes you want to be like, okay, I want her to become the next president of the United States as opposed to Trump?
Yeah, I mean, generally, like, I think she has surrounded herself with smart people, and I'd say like the party aligns with my values, and I think that Kamala, I was like a little worried about her, and then going into the debates, she was so level-headed, so intelligent, so wise and thoughtful, and I thought she did a great job, and so that definitely sold it, although I was never like considering voting for another candidate. But then I think like live off, like on her feet, she did a really great job.
Do you feel like the Democratic Party has gotten a little bit too far left in regards to like the goalposts continuing to be moved? Because I do see a lot of progressives who were once like the Bernie Sanders progressives are now maneuvering more independent because they feel like the agenda within the party has like completely altered. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like super well versed in like the details of politics, although I would say that like I think it's easy to let great get in the way of good, and so someone might want universal health care, which could be a great thing, but then if the candidate is not going to give that, but they're going to give subsidized health care, it's not good enough and they won't vote for them. So I that's what I worry about, and I think it's more important to unite as a Democratic Party, and I mean, in a pessimistic way, take what we can get for now, as opposed to being divided and then letting certain issues get in the way of I think the good that the Democratic Party would bring.
I understand that. I think the main issue that we're seeing right now is that a lot of people feel as if like the Democratic Party is pretty much taking advantage of their vote. Like the concept of "at least I'm not Trump" is kind of been like the not necessarily slogan, but like the talking point, like it's the best of two evils. And I think a lot of people are kind of sick and tired of that mindset. So how do we expect change if we continue to just hold the standard not so high for the people who represent us?
Yeah, I would also say it's not just Democrats. So like my family is pretty split, like in a lot of ways. And for years, they were like, hey, like, we do not like Trump, but we hate Hillary. Like, it just can't be Hillary. And so, and again, that's like a different view than I have, but I think a lot of people have said that.
Yeah.
That said, though, I think when Biden was running and it was clear that his health wasn't in great shape, it was saddening to sit there and think, oh, like, these are our candidates. We can't really do anything about it. But I mean, I miss the days, like, regardless of who you voted for, Obama and Romney were just like two great people.
Yeah.
And they were respectful, they were intelligent, they walked on stage, they smiled, shook hands, it was wonderful. I missed that when you thought, okay, yeah, I can see why people disagree on politics, but like, they deserve to be here to some extent. Whereas today, I do kind of feel like, oh well, this is what we got.
Yeah.
We got to make do.
It's good. Last thing, because it's crazy you bring that up, because I just made a video about the J.D. Vance and the Walz vice president debate that they had, and it kind of really reminded me of the Romney and the Obamas, because of, you can tell that mutual respect was there, even though they had like a difference of opinion and strategies and so forth. So I think we can all kind of agree, like we're trying to get to the point where we can all like agree to disagree, but not allow people's political views to be an indicator how we treat one another.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, my family is really split, and so it is hard when someone you love and someone who loves you votes so different than you. And also, I like live in DC, used to live in LA, like a lot of very liberal people who would say, oh, I would never, if I knew someone voted for Trump, I'll never speak to them again. And I think that's a big part of the problem. And like my feed is more liberal, and you have all these, reels that say like, oh, how could you ever vote for Trump? Like, I can't even fathom that. And at the same time, like, a brother of mine probably has the opposite feed on his Instagram. And it's just so easy to be divided and think, oh, I have no clue how 50% of the population can feel this way. And if you feel that way, I think that's a problem if you can't empathize with others. Put a person before your views. Because at the end of the day, we all want what's best for this country. But how we get there might be different, and so we need to respect that.
What are your thoughts on this upcoming election in regards to who do you want to win and who do you think is going to win?
Oof. Who I want to win is Kamala, but who do I think is going to win is like, it's tough because it's like a lot of it has to go with like if America's ready for a black woman to be president. So, I would like to believe we're there, but it's possible Trump wins because there's a part of the population that's not ready for it, and that would be it would just be disappointing. But I would hope Kamala wins.
So what about specifically about VP Harris that you prefer her over Trump?
I guess my biggest thing is, even like policy aside, I think anyone who really tries to stay in power after they've lost is like kind of a big, like, it's just like, red flag for me. So I would just never want that person, even if that person was a Democrat. I try to think like, if that was a Democrat and they lost and try to stay in power, would I ever vote for that person again? No. Even if I agree with their policies. And so I think that's the thing. There's a lot of policies that I disagree with Harris on, like, the current administration's policy in Israel, like, just don't agree with it. But like, feel like if I don't vote for her, then it's like I'm not voting for anyone because I couldn't vote for a Trump. So, but I would rather have a say in what can happen in terms of policy than not. So
I have a question because I do hear it a lot that Trump's going to be a dictator, he's going to be Hitler, and just as someone who maneuvers as an independent, a main question that I have is that if Trump aside, if anybody has the capability of becoming a dictator under the American system, wouldn't that raise questions in regards to how fragile our system is and not necessarily the person? Because
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think it's more of our system. Like, our system is built that someone could technically stay in power forever, right? As long as the military supports that person. They can change the Constitution if they have control of the House and the Senate. And so, yeah, it's more of an indictment of the system. And so would you trust a system if someone can push it to the brink? And do we want to get to that point? And I would not want us to get to that point, because if we get to that point, the minorities are always the first people to suffer under that kind of system. And so people who are outspoken or people who tend to be more progressive tend to be the ones who suffer the most. And that's just like historically been true. So I would not want to risk that system. But yeah, I think it's an indictment of the system. The fact that we only have two parties isn't great. But like, that's a system we have, and I would rather vote for someone where the hope of having a multi-party system could probably be achieved than someone where break the system, if that makes sense.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Do you truly believe, like, let's say media never put out the talking point, he's going to be Hitler or anything. Do you truly believe, like, if Trump had a second term, he would become a dictator?
I think if the means were able, absolutely, if he'd want to stay in power, yes. I think if the means were able to, because if you listen to the people he likes a lot, Xi Jinping, Erdogan, Viktor Orban in Hungary, those are people who they're autocrats. But that's not only him. You have Paul Kagame in Rwanda, who's an autocrat too. I mean, he wins the democracy with 99%, but like these people are autocrats. So it's not only we have that in it's not only in Europe, but we also have that in sub-Saharan Africa. I think if you have the power to the ability to stay in power for a long time, you're going to do that. I think, Trump has that. He exhibits that tendency. If he could stay in power forever, he would. Not so much would he want to do the job forever, but if he could stay in power and be president, yeah, I think he'd be.
Last question. So when we talk in the terms of democracy, a lot of people had issues with how VP Harris became the presidential candidate. What are your thoughts on that? Like, do you think it's kind of like, I wouldn't even say contradicting, but hypocritical for us to call out Trump where he's wrong in his wrongdoings, but we go along with it when it's within our own party?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the way the convention was set up, could you have had multiple people voting? No one wanted to risk it because if you challenge Harris or you challenge Biden before the primaries, like, no one's going to give you money, so that was always hard.
Is that really true democracy?
No, yeah. I mean, you could pick it, but it's not really true democracy. You could say that a lot of it's money, and so we don't really have a lot of voters saying that. And so that's an indictment of the system. We would have liked an open primary, yeah, absolutely, but I think we have the system we have, and until we can change that system, we try to, at least the way I view it,
hold our head above.
Yeah, until it gets better, and we've been, that's probably true for America for a long time, but I think that's the way I view it, is like, I've never lost hope in the American system, and I hope I would never do, and I think if I lose hope, then then I don't know what else, because I don't know what else I would do, because policy made by people in power affect my lives whether I'm part of the system or not. So I'd rather be part of the system. Until I give up, I'm going to continue to be part of the system. Did I like the part that Harris became basically the party nominee? It would have been better if Biden just said a one-term president and said, hey, I'm not going to run again, and then had primary.
Yeah.
And that would have been perfect, but no, he didn't, and that's the system we have now.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on this upcoming election?
I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on this election. I think that it's probably one of the most important elections that we've had in many, many years. And I feel like if somehow Trump gets elected again, like, we are in serious trouble. I have a lot of feelings too, though, about like the Biden, like, Harris administration, the way they are now and the way that we're funding Israel. And like just today we sent them like a ton of missiles, and like that is incredibly upsetting for me. But like, it still is not going to sway my vote to not vote for them or not vote at all, because I think that it's important to, like, you have to vote blue, in my opinion. So that's my thing.
Do you feel like right now is more divisive than ever, or do you feel like because of social media, because of mainstream media, it's more so like heightened?
I personally think it's way more divisive, and I think that definitely part of that, yes, is because things are being filmed and things are out on social media, and like you can actually like see like blatant racism and all of that. But I also think that like Trump made it okay for like white supremacy to like show their true colors and not like really care like if people see it. Basically, I think that that's one of the main reasons why we cannot like have him in office again, because I think it would just get worse, honestly, and that's terrifying to me.
I think what's really scary is that on social media and those types of platforms, you are fed certain information. So I think people get caught in these cycles of believing misinformation and maybe not seeing the entire spectrum of what is actually happening and doing their own investigation and their own research. And so I would advocate for everyone to really know what matters to them and do their own research and not just what's being pushed to them on social media and different platforms in that.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm the only non-conservative in my family. Like,
Oh, you're the second person.
really? 2 of my brothers are actually devout, like, QAnon followers. So that's pretty terrifying to me that they believe all this insanity that, I mean, the things that they believe is wild to me. And they're very, very, very smart, very well-educated men. And it's insane to me that somehow they fell down this rabbit hole of horrible misinformation and just complete, I mean, and I don't know what else to call it, but like fake news that goes around. It's bad. It's terrifying.
Something that I wanted to ask, because as someone who maneuvers as an independent, there's something that where we are right now, I'm really trying to grasp people into putting feelings aside and looking at like the facts in front of us. So something that I'm noticing is that a lot of people on the left and the right, they put kind of like their identity in their political parties. So like no matter what's happening within the party, they're making excuses for it, whether it's good or whether it's bad. So do you feel like sometimes within the Democratic Party, for example, that we kind of contradict ourselves in the sense of like how VP Harris became the presidential nominee? A lot of people had issues with that because people really actually wanted a primary, regardless of like the delegations and so forth. Do you feel like sometimes we don't hold the same standard that we hold towards Trump, in a sense?
I mean, maybe yes and no, but I think that they're such like complete different ends of the spectrum. Like, I think that honestly, like for Biden to put his ego aside and step down and say, you know what, maybe you're right, I can't handle another 4 years as president is pretty incredible. Most men would not do that. Trump absolutely would not do that. I mean, he keeps threatening, if I get elected again, we'll never have another election. Like, he just thinks he's going to be president forever. So, you know, it's completely delusional, but that's, you know, what he believes. And so when you're talking about taking emotions out of like your vote, or just like when you're just like looking at the facts, like for me personally as a queer person, I don't know how I could take my emotions out of it. Like, it's so, for me, it's, you're either voting for me or against me, basically, really is how I feel. And like, even though my family says that they're like socially liberal and they're fine with me being queer, they're still voting against me in every election. Like, they're blatantly voting to take my rights away. So for me, it's something that I could not take emotions out of, but yes, can I look at like just the facts and like differentiate between what's fact and what's fiction? Yes, but can I take my emotions out of it completely? Never. I don't think I could.
The reason why I ask is because, like, for example, within the black community, there has been a divide within black men and black women in regards to who they're voting for. A key thing that a lot of black people, specifically in the state of California, they wanted the reparation state bill. And we had the opportunity to have that reparation state bill until it was stopped. I'm going to put it on Gavin Newsom. He said it wasn't the state legislators. He took the blame for it. Well, he didn't really take the blame for it, but we were putting the blame on him because he said that there was still so much within the bill. At some point within, like, as a black person, we're taking a step back, be like, okay, we've done this, we showed up for you in Georgia, we've helped you for A, B, and C, like, at what point are we going to get the benefit of it? So, like, where do we come, at what point as a country do we just come to the point where it's like, okay, who has the best policies for me, regardless of what they may have said, may have done, because both sides they're not perfect, far from perfect.
I think we've been pigeonholed essentially by the political system, right? We don't necessarily have the opportunity to really vote always in alignment with exactly how someone has constantly shown up and consistently shown up, because it has been so extreme. And honestly, if you vote for anyone other than the two primary candidates, then you're throwing your vote away essentially, right, at this point. And so it scares me that our political system is in the state that it is, but at the same time, we almost have to accept that we don't have another option, right? And that's what's scary to me. But and that we are not holding people accountable for the things that they have said and done, said they were going to do, didn't do. I'm not sure that the current state of our political system supports what we actually want. And unfortunately, as citizens, I'm not sure that we necessarily have the opportunity to have that voice heard at this moment in time. My hope is that in the future, we will build something. I hope our younger generation starts to hold people accountable, gets out there, votes, and does what they need to do in order to change the current system that exists. Because it's broken.
Every single person's vote should count. This whole electoral college thing is a bunch of baloney, in my opinion. Like, every single person's vote should count. Like you were saying, like, say you are independent, like if you vote independent the way that our system is set up at this point, you are throwing your vote away. And that should not be the case. Like, I think that every single person's vote should be counted individually. So whoever you vote for is a vote for that person, not just like we're gonna lump it into this, you get X amount of points from this state because you got the most votes. Like, it should be literally every single vote should count towards each individual, in my opinion.
Yeah. Last question. Seeing that there's so much divisiveness, like my goal is to obviously get people to the point where we can like, you know, be kumbaya. Like, I just feel like there's just so much divisiveness going on. Like, what do you think that we're missing, like, right now, where within the system to where it's just like, regardless of what you may believe, I'm not going to use your belief as an indicator on how I treat you. Like, what is something that we're missing to bring people, like, together? Because it's like, it overstimulates our brains. Like,
absolutely. I mean, I think it's a really difficult thing in the way that society is built right now.
Yeah.
And the challenges that everyone is under in order to essentially, I mean, the system is built for those that have been successful historically to continue to be successful and continue to be in power. And that is something that cannot continue to happen, right? And so we have to dismantle the system that exists in order for that to happen. Right now, if you are worried about your fundamental needs and your basic needs, going home and getting food on the table for your family, paying your bills, and you are just getting by day to day, are you able to then really have the opportunity to make your voice heard in other ways? I'm not sure that you have that power, right? And so I think that once we are able to dismantle the way that it is currently built, and we put people in power, in positions of power that really deserve to be in power, deserve to have their voice heard, we will start to see those things change. And again, I just hope that the younger generation does that for us, because right now, we haven't done as great a job as we could have in getting that done.
so what are your thoughts on this upcoming election?
My thoughts on this upcoming election is I listen to both sides, and they always tell you what they're gonna do, but they never give you a thought out plan as to how they're actually gonna do it. They just tell you what they're gonna do, but they never lay anything out in full detail as to how they're gonna do it. So that it's so questionable to me. So I'm confused. Not confused about who I'm voting for though, but I'm just confused as how do you tell the people or try to convince people to vote for you when you're not really giving them anything in full detail as to how you're making these changes. You just telling us I'm gonna change this, I'm gonna change that, but how? Convince me. You know what I'm saying? Sell me something. You're not selling me anything. You're just making a promise. You know, so yeah, that's my opinion. That's my opinion.
Can I ask you one follow-up?
Come on, follow up.
Okay, just one follow-up. I told her I was just asking one question, so this is my fault. So just a follow-up. So seeing that you feel as if they're just telling us what they're going to do, not necessarily how they're going to do, what was the indicator on what helped you decide on who you're going to vote for? If they're both if you feel like both of them are just telling you the policies, but not how to get there. You don't have to say who you're voting for, but like what was it that made you decide, okay, I guess I'm gonna vote for this person?
Didn't take a rocket scientist to figure that one out. But personally, I mean, just my observation of the two. It was clear. As you know, it just didn't. I didn't have to pull my teeth to figure that one out.
Who are you voting for this upcoming election?
For Harris.
Why are you voting for VP Harris?
I vote for her because of the reproductive freedom. I really think that's on the stake. I really think that all women who are pregnant, they should receive health care for the pregnancy. I think every woman should be able to choose, because she will live with the decision her entire life. So she has to be able to decide for herself without any government. So that's what's on stake, because freedom for her, it's freedom also for the man, for the entire society. This is like something, I think. So that's why I vote.
Do you feel, and just for the record, this is her first time voting, so congratulations.
Yes,
her first time eligible to vote.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so because you mentioned the right to like have autonomy or the rights for abortion.
Yes.
Right now within the Democratic Party, there's like a blurred line because a lot of people are trying to understand where does that limit stop. So like, do you feel like the limit should be where it should depend on the mother? Do you feel like there should be a legal limit, or do you feel like should it be in writing, or what do you feel about that portion?
Could you please repeat that question? Who is it like? Do you mean that it should be like it has been before? It should, if I understood the question correct, that it should be that a woman's choice, and it should be like it has been previously as well.
Do you feel like, okay, so like, no, so you're saying like it should be the women's choice, okay, so do you feel like the woman should have her decision up until 6 months, 4 months, 3 months? Like, do you feel like there should be a limit in regards to when she can decide, or no, there should be unlimited?
It should definitely not be before she even knows she's pregnant. Like, so I think I have no idea exactly about when it's been like, if it's like 3 months or if it's like, you know, in the beginning. No, I cannot say, because I'm not a healthcare expert. I'm not a professional in that area, but I think that the doctor and always the woman's life matters. You know, that her health, that she should be not. So yes.
So what are your thoughts with this upcoming election?
They always say that this is the most important election of our lifetime every 4 years, right? But this might be the last election, because I predict that once again a Republican candidate is going to win an election without winning the popular vote. Ms. Harris, I predict, will win the popular vote, but she will lose to Electoral College. I don't think a Republican candidate has won the popular vote in generations, and hence why we need to get rid of the Electoral College once and for all. That remains to be seen if that's going to be possible in this election cycle. But I think we're living in serious times, because the only thing more dangerous than a Trump second administration is Trump losing the election again. It's going to be violent. He has promised that. I think this country is tinkering on the verge of a civil war, actually. And that is how serious this election is. But having said all of that, because the fact for me, the issue that's most loud to me is genocide in real time. Now, we've seen genocides in the Congo and other places around the world, but this one in Palestine is different because it's been live streamed. They have their own media outlet. We have been seeing it. And because of that, I won't be able to support Ms. Harris' administration, because she hasn't made any efforts to stop that genocide. And the last time someone pulled Israel's coattail was actually a Republican, and that was Ronald Reagan, who was no friend of ours at all, but that's just letting you know the power that they have by a phone call. So I think we have an opportunity to see the largest voter turnout for third-party candidates in the history of America. All they have to do is get 5% of the voter, the percentage of the vote, and they would be qualified for federal funding. They will be allowed into the debates in the next cycle, if there is one, and I think that's a game changer. So my vote on the federal level will be going to the Green Party. I'm here locally in D.C. Yes, I'm here locally. Shout out to Cornel West. It's just that Green Party has more ballot access. And I'm here to represent the D.C. statehood Green Party on the local level. and I'm challenging our 35-year incumbent, Eleanor Holmes Norton, who's also on the wrong side of this issue when it comes to genocide. And I think that when we look at America with over 800 military installations around the world, we cannot be on the wrong side of history and applauding symbolism over substance. The fact is that Barack Obama, as beautiful as he was, to see that image in the White House, he destroyed Libya, which has the highest standard of living in Africa. And if you look at Libya now in the sorry state it in, that's not what they said they was there to do. They was there to save democracy. And look at Iraq, look at any place that America's imperialism rears its ugly head. So because of that, I will have to stand on the right side of history and vote against the two corporate political parties in this election cycle.
Okay, so quick question. What do you feel, what do you say to those who are saying that if you're voting third party, you might as well not vote at all because you're throwing your vote away on both ends of the aisle?
Then those are the same people that's telling black people that we're supposed to save democracy. And what they just said is anti-democratic because I'm supposed to be able to vote for whoever I want to vote for, right? And what they really mean is that it's the electoral college that prevents, that creates a spoiler in this system. That's why we should have a national ranked choice voting system so that people can choose their first and second, third choice, and then that eliminates the spoiler system. And the electoral college would be a natural reflection of the popular vote. Because right now, if you live in a blue state and you vote in red, it doesn't matter. Those electoral colleges are going to go to that color. That is what's wasting your vote. It's the electoral college. So when I hear that, that means they have no real grasp of the American civic system, and that's why they don't teach civics in American classes anymore. And we need to stamp out ignorance wherever it rears its ugly head.
What about the feasibility of it, the political feasibility of that actually coming for, like, happening?
It is very possible for third-party candidates to reach 5%. It's happened before. The last one was a billionaire by the name of Ross Perot. At that time, the threshold was only 2%. It's because of him they raised it to 5% because they know that it would take millions of dollars to reach millions of people in order to reach that threshold. But thanks to the Breakfast Club, I think we're going to be able to do that because the Green Party was on the Breakfast Club. Angela Rye showed her hand as being a Democratic operative, attack dog for the DNC, who has been filing lawsuits after lawsuits, trying to keep green candidates off the ballot. That in itself is anti-democratic. And so we have to call a spade a spade. This is the ugly truth of the matter. And again, we're going to see the largest voter turnout for third-party candidates in this election cycle. And the magic number is 5%.
Thank you so much.
As we navigate the complexities of today's political landscape, it's clear that while our differences may seem vast, there's always common ground to be found. It begins with open dialogue, a willingness to listen, and the recognition that we all want a better future for ourselves, our families, and our communities. This is Uduak, connecting people with policy.